In the last class, you opened your Amazon Web Services account and learned the safe way to get started. Today, we tackle the single most important idea in cloud security, and the one that beginners most often get dangerously wrong: the shared responsibility model. Here is the misunderstanding that causes real damage. People assume that once they move to the cloud, the provider takes care of all the security for them. It feels reasonable, and A2112, Amazon is huge, surely they handle it. But it is only half true, and the other half is what gets companies breached. Security in the cloud is shared, Amazon Web Services secures part of it, and you are responsible for the rest. If you do not know exactly where that line sits, you will leave your half wide open without ever realizing it. So today, we draw that line clearly, and by the end, you will know precisely what Amazon Web Services protects, what you must protect, and why almost every cloud breach happens on the customer NAT9 side. Here is what we will understand today. First, why this model matters so much. Second, what Amazon Web Services is responsible for, and AT2212, security of the cloud. Third, what you are responsible for, and AT200 security in the cloud. Fourth, the dividing line stated simply. Fifth, how that line shifts depending on the service type. And sixth, the concrete responsibilities you must always own. Let us begin. Let us begin with why this idea deserves a whole class to itself. The biggest myth in cloud computing is that the provider handles security for you. It is comforting and completely understandable, and A2112, you are renting someone else in 39 as infrastructure, so surely their security covers you. But believing it is exactly how accounts get breached, because it leads people to skip the protections that were always their job. The cloud is not automatically secure just because a big company runs it. The reality is that security is shared, and NAT swirl. This is the sobering part. NAT swirl, part NAT swirl. The overwhelming majority of cloud breaches come from the customer NID swirl side of the line, not the provider NID swirl. Amazon Web Services NT9's own infrastructure being hacked is extraordinarily rare. Data leaking because a customer left something misconfigured is extremely common. The weak point is almost never Amazon. It is the settings the customer never checked. So understanding this model is not academic. It is the map that tells you which locks are yours to close. Every protection on your side that you skip because you assumed Amazon Web Services had it covered is an open door. Knowing the line is the first real step to being secure in the cloud. So the takeaway: security in the cloud is shared, not automatic, and A2121. And because most breaches happen on the customer NAT's half, you must know exactly which half is yours and protect it deliberately. The whole model comes down to two short phases, and once they click, everything else falls into place. Amazon Web Services is responsible for security of the cloud. That means the cloud itself and AT212. The physical hardware, the buildings, the power and cooling, the global network, the foundational infrastructure that makes Amazon Web Services exist. All the machinery underneath, the part you can never touch or see, is Amazon Web Services and IT99 job to secure. You are responsible for security in the cloud. That means everything you put into it and do with it, an A2-hander or the Y2-hander, your data, your settings, who you let in, and how you use each service. The stuff that is yours, sitting on top of Amazon Web Services NE39's foundation, is your job to secure. The mental image that makes it stick is renting an apartment in a secure building. The landlord secures the building itself and 85-2 the walls, the foundation, the locks on the main entrance, the security guard. That is security and AT200 of the building. And AT200 on part, but locking your own apartment door, deciding who gets a key, and not leaving your valuables on the doorstep, and AT200. That is security and AT200, and it is entirely on you. Amazon Web Services is the landlord, you are the tenant. No, So the takeaway, Amazon Web Services secures of the cloud and A200, the hardware, facilities, and global infrastructure, and A200 while you secure in the cloud and A200, 200 your data, settings, access, and usage, and A2112 just like a landlord secures the building and you secure your own apartment. Let us make Amazon Web Services and DT9 side concrete so you know exactly what you are getting. First, the physical and global layer. Amazon Web Services secures its data centers and AT2212, the actual buildings with guards, cameras, and strict access control. It secures the servers, storage, and networking hardware inside them. It secures the power, the cooling, and the massive global network connecting its regions and availability zones. This is enormous, world-class security that you inherit simply by using Amazon Web Services and could never replicate yourself. Second, the internals of its managed services. When you use a managed Amazon Web Services service and A2112, a managed database, for instance, an A2112, Amazon Web Services secures and patches the underlying software that runs that service, the operating system it sits on, the engine itself, the maintenance. The more managed the service, the more of this Amazon Web Services quietly handles for you. The simple way to think about it, everything you cannot touch, Amazon Web Services secures. You have no access to the physical hardware or the guts of a managed service, so Amazon Web Services takes responsibility for them. That inherited security is a huge part of the value of the cloud and A202. Or a small team gets data center security that would otherwise take a fortune and an army to build. Now the takeaway, Amazon Web Services secures the physical data centers, all the hardware and network, and the internals of its managed services and A212. Essentially, everything you cannot touch and A212, giving you world-class foundational security for free. Now, your side and AT01, and this is the half people neglect, so pay close attention. First, your data and your configuration. Whatever you store in the cloud is yours to protect and AT212. And, critically, how you set each service up is your responsibility. If you configure a storage bucket to be readable by the whole internet, that is your choice and your risk, not Amazon Web Services and X-Byte9. Amazon Web Services gives you the controls, using them correctly is on you. Second, access and patching. You decide who can log into your account and what they can do, and AT212, managing users, passwords, and permissions. And on some services, you are responsible for keeping the software you run updated. If you run your own server, patching its operating system and applications is your job, not Amazon and ACNDZan. The through line is that anything reflecting your choices is yours to secure. Your data, your settings, your users, your access rules, and A212, Amazon Web Services cannot make these decisions for you because they depend entirely on what you are building and who should have access. Amazon Web Services hands you a secure foundation and a set of powerful locks. Whether you actually turn those locks is up to you. So the takeaway, you secure your data, your configuration, who has access, and the software you run yourself and AT212. Everything that reflects your choices and AT212. Because Amazon Web Services provides the controls but cannot decide how you should use them. Here is a subtlety that trips people up. The exact dividing line is not fixed. It slides depending on the type of service you use, and it slides in a predictable way. With infrastructure as a service and AT112. Infrastructure as a service, like a raw virtual server, and AT112, you manage the most. Amazon Web Services gives you the hardware and the virtualization, but the operating system, its patching, the configuration, and the data on top are all yours. You get the most control, and with it the most responsibility. With Platform as a Service and AT12 all, Platform as a Service and AT12 all, it is shared more evenly. Amazon Web Services runs and secures the platform, including the operating system and runtime, while you take care of your application and your data on top of it. You worry less about patching. and more about your own code and settings. And with software as a service and 8012 software as a service, a ready-to-use application, and 8012 Amazon Web Services manages almost everything. Your responsibility shrinks mainly to managing access and protecting your data within the app. The more managed the service, the more responsibility shifts to Amazon Web Services and 8202. But notice it never shifts entirely, because your data and your access are always yours. So, the takeaway, the dividing line slides with the service and 8212. You manage the most on infrastructure as a service, and even share on platform as a service, and the least on software as a service and 8212. So always know which type you are using, and therefore how much falls to you. Let us distill this whole model into a single sentence you can carry forever, because a clear rule beats a complicated diagram. Here it is. Amazon Web Services is responsible for the security of the cloud, and you are responsible for security in the cloud. Of the cloud means the infrastructure, and 8200 Amazon Web Services and 89's job. In the cloud means everything you place and do on it, and 8412 your job. Two prepositions, and the entire model fits inside them. Whenever you are unsure who is responsible for something, ask which side of that line it falls on. Is it part of the underlying infrastructure you cannot touch? Then it is Amazon Web Services. Is it your data, your setting, your access decision, your software? Then it is you. That one question resolves almost every case. Keep this sentence in your head every time you configure anything on Amazon Web Services, and you will instinctively check your own responsibilities instead of assuming they are handled. The breaches happen to people who never ask the question. You are now someone who asks it. So the takeaway, remember the model as one line, and 8112 Amazon Web Services secures of the cloud, the infrastructure, and you secure in the cloud your contents and 8212, and ask which side any given thing falls on whenever you are in doubt. Because the line shifts by service, it helps to pin down the things that are yours no matter what, and 8212, the responsibilities you can never delegate to Amazon Web Services. First, your data. On every service, from raw servers to ready-made apps, protecting your data is always your responsibility, and 8212, deciding how it is stored, who can read it, and whether it is encrypted. Amazon Web Services never takes ownership of securing the meaning of your data. Second, your access, and 8212, managed through IAM, which we met last class. Who can log in, and what each person or application is allowed to do, is always your decision. Amazon Web Services cannot know that your finance team should not have admin rights. Only you can set that. Third, your configuration. How you set up each service, and 8212, open or locked down, public or private, and 8212, is always yours. The single most common cloud mistake is a misconfiguration, precisely because it sits squarely on the customer N39 side on every service. These three A82 data, access, configuration, and A2 never move to Amazon Web Services, whatever you are using. So the takeaway, no matter the service, three things are always yours, and 8212, protecting your data, controlling access with IAM, and configuring the service safely, and 8200 because Amazon Web Services can secure the infrastructure, but never your data, your permissions, or your choices. Let us look honestly at where cloud security actually fails, because it will motivate everything on your checklist. On one side, Amazon Web Services and 39's infrastructure failing or being breached is extraordinarily rare. It is defended by one of the largest, best resourced security teams on the planet, with layers of physical and digital protection. You will almost never read a headline that says Amazon Web Services and of 39's data centers were hacked, because that side of the line is ferociously well guarded. On the other side, customer misconfiguration is common, and 8212, and it is behind the great majority of cloud data leaks you do hear about. A storage bucket accidentally left open to the public. A database exposed to the internet with a weak password. an over-permissive access policy that let an attacker roam freely. None of these are Amazon Web Services failing. All of them are the customer N39 SAF left unlocked. The lesson is bracing but empowering. The biggest risk to your cloud security is not hackers defeating Amazon and A202 fall, it is you leaving your own door open. And that is good news, because it means your security is largely in your own hands. Do your half well, and you have closed the door that almost every breach walks through. So the takeaway, Amazon Web Services and by the C9S infrastructure is almost never the weak point and A212. Nearly all cloud breaches are customer misconfiguration, like an open bucket or weak access and A212, which means securing your own half is the single most important thing you can do. Let us finish with the concrete checklist for holding up your side of the model and A212, the habits that close the doors breaches walk through. First, lockdown access. Use strong IAM. Give every person an application the least privilege they need and no more, and turn on multi-factor authentication. Weak or overbroad access is one of the most exploited gaps, and tight IAM shuts it. Second, never leave storage or databases open to the public by accident. Before you deploy, check what is exposed, and A2012. Is that bucket really meant to be readable by the whole internet? Defaulting to private and opening up only what must be open prevents the classic leak. And third, protect your data directly or NAS2SI2 encrypted, so that even if something is exposed, it is unreadable NAS2SI or do, and patch any software you run yourself, so known holes are closed. Encryption and patching are the last line that turns a mistake into a non-event. Do these three, and your half of the responsibility is genuinely covered. So the takeaway, hold your side with tight IAM and least privilege, plus MFA, never accidentally, public storage, and encrypting your data while patching what you run, and A2112. These habits close the doors that cause almost every cloud breach. Let us gather the whole class in one breath. Security in the cloud is shared, not automatic, and A212, and you own half the job. Amazon Web Services secures of the cloud, and A212 the hardware, facilities, and managed service internals. You secure in the cloud, and A212 your data, configuration, access, and patching. The line shifts by service and A212, most on infrastructure as a service, shared on platform as a service, leased on software as a service. Some things are always yours, and A212 your data, your IAM access, and your configuration. And most breaches are customer misconfiguration, not Amazon Web Services infrastructure. Next class, NE212, the IAM deep dive, users, groups, roles, and policies. One idea at a time. That is the shared responsibility model and A212, the foundation of all cloud security. Amazon Web Services secures the cloud. You secure what you put in it. The companies that get breached are almost always the ones who forgot they had a half to secure at all. Now, you will never make that mistake. You know where the line sits. You know it shifts by service, and you know your data, access, and configuration are always yours to protect. Hold your side well, and the cloud is a genuinely safe place to build. We will see you in the next class.